A warm welcome to all. My name is Dr. Mukesh Paryani. I am consultant at HV Desai Eye Hospital in LASIK department. My topic for today for the post-graduation education webinar series is update on phakic IOLs. Well, we all know the spectrum of refractive surgeries are huge. They are based on cornea, like the LASIK, epiLASIK, PRK, and some of the old procedures like RK and conductive keratoplasty. While there are some lenticular-based procedures as well, such as clear lens extraction and phakic IOL. And there can be a combination of two or three called as bioptics or trioptics. For this particular webinar, we will be concentrating mainly on the phakic intraocular lenses. Phakic intraocular lenses basically means presence of a lens along with the presence of a crystalline lens. There can be three types of it. There can be an anterior chamber fixated IOL, or there can be an IOL which is on the iris supported phakic IOL, or there can be a plate lens that can fit between the iris and the crystalline lens, that is your posterior chamber phakic intraocular lens. We will also see these were some of the earlier lenses that were available, the angle supported IOLs. They were placed in the anterior chamber, and perhaps because of their proximity to the corneal endothelium and causing a higher rates of the endothelial decompensation and chronic corneal edema, they are not used widely nowadays. Perhaps people have stopped using them now. Well, there were some lenses by which were artisan or the artiflex fake lenses. These lenses are being clipped over the iris, but they lie in the anterior chamber. And also, it is being very close to the corneal endothelium can cause some amount of problems to the corneal endothelial cell loss. And also, it can cause pupil ovalization and multiple problems related to the positioning of the lens. Sometimes one side of the lens, which is enclavated here, get dislodged from here and can cause lens touch in many cases. There were advantages of these lenses, yes, because one, there was no sizing issue in these lenses, while the other phakic intraocular lenses, they require a lot of sizing. They are extremely versatile. They were designed even for aphakic patients, the myopia or the hyperopia. Pupil dilatation is not inhibited in this, although it looks that it might restrict the pupillary movements and the pupillary dilatation, but really doesn't affect much. And there was reversibility of the fixation as well. But the challenges in these cases were, as I told you earlier, is the endothelial cell loss, and they require a larger incision size. They are not foldable lenses, so at least 5 mm of the incision is required, and there are chances of dislocation, as I clearly explained earlier. And it is very difficult to exchange. Pupil peaking and distortion can happen at any point of time. Posterior chamber phakic intraocular lenses are the ones that we are using widely now. It offers the widest power correction from plus 15 diopters to minus 30 diopters with a toric correction up to 8 diopters. Now there are different materials that are used in this posterior chamber phakic intraocular lenses. They are either made of the porcine material that was the earliest FDA approved lens by the Star company. And now later on, other companies have also started producing a hybrid acrylic material. Predominantly, there are many Indian companies, also 3 or 4 Indian companies that now produce that hybrid acrylic material posterior chamber phakic intraocular lenses. Now, what are the advantages of the posterior chamber phakic intraocular lenses? Is that they lie behind the iris, and that's why they are far away from the endothelium. It is very close to the nodal point, the retinal size. There's a lot of improvement in the quality of image, and they have a greater optical zone. Now, some of the lenses, they provide a modification in the optical zone as well, ranging from 5.5 to 6 or 6.25 mm of the optical zone. They're located at the sulcus. So it's a stable location. Even if we have designed a toric lens, they're pretty much stable and doesn't move much if the lens is sized properly. And it has easy removable and exchangeable. It's a foldable lens. It goes to 2.8 mm, and it has no fixation issues to the iris. So we don't have to manipulate or inclinate an iris. It just goes into the sulcus. We just have to dial it into the sulcus and it stays there with a specific vault. The vault is basically the distance of the uh, phakic intraocular lens from the crystalline lens is basically your vault size. What are the indications? It has to be above 18 years of age. The refraction has to be stable. The patient does not suitable for LASIK are the main is the main indication of this procedures. If I have a patient who's -8 or -10 diopters and the cornea doesn't permit me to do a LASIK surgery, or even for a lower refractive error, if I have a patient with a -4 or -5 refractive error, but the cornea is too thin or the curvature is abnormal, then perhaps phakic IOL is a better choice for these kind of patients. The anterior chamber depth is a major requirement in this, and the anterior chamber depth has to be more than 2.8 millimeter for myopia, and for hyperopia, it has to be more than 3 millimeter. The AC depth is calculated from the endothelium to the anterior crystalline lens. The endothelial cell count preferably has to be more than 2,500 for doing a phakic intraocular lens, and that follow-up annually, endothelial cell count should be performed. The patient should not have any other ocular pathology like a glaucoma or an uveitis, because that can increase the episodes of uveitis, and if the patient is having glaucoma, the intraocular pressure can go up. So we don't want any other ocular pathology. Certainly, a presence of a clear crystalline lens is mandatory. If you have any lenticular opacity or the cataract, that this procedure cannot be done. As I said, if I have a poor endothelial cell count and the chamber which is less than 2.8, uveitis, synechiae, glaucoma, cataract, or if the patient is having an uncontrolled diabetes mellitus or a diabetic retinopathy, then perhaps this procedure is not advised to the patient. There are multiple companies available. The longest that was there was a Star surgical implantable collamer lens, and there are other companies, Indian companies, which are producing the similar posterior chamber phakic intraocular lens. The widely used are the Star surgical ICL and the Care Group implantable phakic contact lens, the IPCL. I have no financial interest in any of the procedures that I will be showing. Now, the salient features, as I said, ICL is a collamer material, and porcine collamer derived from porcine, and IPCL is an acrylic material. Diopters is 10 to 20 diopters for the ICL, and the high dioptric range for the IPCL, and in terms of toricity as well. Now, both of these lenses have come up with a central hole, so there is no chances. The iridotomy usually that we used to do earlier with the earlier versions of ICL and the IPCL, we used to do an iridotomy is perhaps not required in these lenses because of the central hole opening. Both have online calculation software, very easy to calculate. And the IPCL has a multifocal variant as well. So if you have a presbyopic patient with an absolute crystalline lens, then perhaps you can have a IPCL, which is a presbyopic IPCL, for them to take care of the near vision as well. It's based on the diffractive multifocality, which is incorporated in the lens. What do we do for this preoperative assessment of phakic intraocular lenses? Refraction, the most important thing is the correct refraction of the patient. We do fully dilated cycloplegic refraction of the patient. We assess the anterior chamber depth. As I told you, it has to be more than 2.8 for myopes and +3 for hyperopes. The detailed anterior and posterior segment evaluations has to be done. Topography to see whether we are dealing with a regular topography or an abnormal topography. Intraocular pressure is a must, and complete glaucoma evaluation, including the gonioscopy, is mandatory. white to white measurement is the most important thing in sizing. So the lens, basically the size of the lens depends on two things. First and foremost is the white to white measurement. What is the white to white measurement of the eye? And second, it depends on the anterior chamber depth. And as I told you, the specular microscopy is important for it. The white to white measurement is done using multiple things. We have different types of calipers, but the lower two, these are the most important, the digital caliper. They are very, very precise, and there is a way that we can use to do the measurements using caliper. I'll be showing a small video regarding that. But most importantly, one should understand that not we have to do multiple measurement, not just a single measurement using caliper. There are other instruments like the topography, the IOL master who gives white to white. We have to compare with two or three instruments and also two or three observers when you're doing a digital caliper. Because this is the most important step that will decide the vault of the lens after the surgery. If the vault is too low, there are chances that it will touch the crystalline lens and can cause cataract. And if the vault is very high, it can cause shallowing of the angles and perhaps can cause a glaucoma as well. Now, this is a small video of how we do a white-to-white measurement for our patients. The patients are taken as if they are being taken for the surgery. So what we do is we take them in the OR, put a clean speculum, we put a paracane, and we take a digital caliper, and measurement is done from horizontally from the white to white, and it's preferable that we do it with the two observers. Single observer can sometimes have bias. We'll have a more precise white to white if two observers do. So for example, in this patient was 11.14. So the white to white measurement is the most important thing that we have to do in these patients. Now, phakic intraocular lenses sizing, as I told you, depends on the white to white and the anterior chamber depth, and to give us a precise vault. The vault, a normal vault is basically from 250 microns to 750 micron. That is your half corneal thickness to 1.5 corneal thickness. Any vault which is lesser than 250 will have a higher chances of development of glaucoma, of the cataract. And if my vault is way too high, more than 2 corneal thickness, then perhaps there are chances that the patient will have a shallowing of ankle, intraocular, rise in the intraocular pressure, and secondary glaucoma. So this is what I just said. If I have a lens which is having a low vault, the chances of cataract development, and a lens which is having a high vault can cause secondary glaucoma. I'll be showing some of the videos to you now regarding of the procedures. So first I'll show you of how the ICL implantation of the lens is carried out. So implantation of ICL we see here. So the patient is taken, you can see I have already paint and draping, and the speculum is done, and we are just now making very small side ports as we do. It has to be banged parallel to the iris, making sure it doesn't go too close to the crystalline lens. This is an intracameral lignocaine that we are using. Then I'm inflating the anterior chamber with the viscoelastic. Care is to be taken that we do not overinflate the anterior chamber. After this particular step, we make the main port. The main port is of 2.8 mm. Once the main port entry is done, we are ready to inject the lens. On my left hand side is a Vukix manipulator, which is used as a guard there, that in case the lens doesn't open in a defined way, I can always handle it with the Vukix manipulator there. The lens opens really nicely, and you can see the central hole there. The central hole, the center flow technology basically is basically designed for the aqueous flow through this, so that we don't have pupillary block or chances of secondary glaucoma. viscoelastic is injected, then using the same UKIX manipulator, the haptics are being tucked inside, underneath the iris, underneath the pupil, and first the distal ones are tucked, and then the subincisional haptics are tucked under the iris. It's fairly a simple process, but zero margin of error. You can't have any error in these procedures. Just deflating the anterior chamber a little bit. I am hydrating the main ports. Once the main ports are hydrated, we can do an irrigation aspiration using the bimanual irrigation aspiration from the two side ports that we have created. And the visco is taken out using an irrigation aspiration. You have to be very patient in doing the irrigation aspiration. You will be slowly seeing the bubbles, the visco behind the IOL also comes in the center. You just have to track the bubble. So you see this bubble which was there behind, the second bubble is coming up. So that's how the visco behind the lens also is being replaced by saline, and then the chances of intraocular pressure rise is fairly less in these patients. You see this fluid wave coming and it is replacing the viscoelastic. And then hydration of the side port is done, and we don't need a PI in this case because there is a presence of a central hole here. So that's how a surgery is performed in these patients with ICL. Now we will also see at this particular point of how the we are doing the IPCL. So IPCL also we will have a look now of how it is done. So IPCL, I'll be showing some part of the loading as well. It's very simple to load the IPCL. We use the visco, which is filled in the cartridge, and the IPCL is loaded fairly in a similar way as we load the IOL. Now there are some signs that allow us to see whether the vault is convexity up. So when we are injecting the lens, the convexity has to be up. So there is a notch on the right upper side and left lower side. We have to make sure that it is not caught up between the butterfly hinges of the cartridge. And this is how the IPCL is loaded. Once the IPCL is loaded, it was a toric lens, so the marking of 0, 180 is already done. I will be fast forwarding a little bit, and we can see that the side port and the main port entries are made, and with the similar type of technique, and the implantation of the phakic intraocular lens is done. I will also be showing, so this is a notch. Here we can see this is the proximal is on the left hand side, the distal is on the right hand side. This is reverse in case of an star ICL. The notch is there on the right hand side up and left side lower in an ICL. But in IPCL, as in this case, the notch is there on the left upper side. You can see this notch here, and a notch is here on the right lower side. The haptics are then tucked underneath, the axis being aligned similarly. So here I'm tucking in the distal haptics and then the proximal haptics, washing up a little bit. In this case, we had planned a PI also, because at that time we were comparing whether there is any difference in the intraocular pressure by doing a hydrotomy or not. So these are the early, when the lens just came in, at that time we were comparing whether the PI really makes any difference. So this is the surgical PI that we are doing using a vitrectomy cutter. And again, the irrigation aspiration is done in a usual fashion, and the ports are hydrated. So that's how we kind of perform the surgery. And the phakic intraocular lens vault, as you can see, this is slightly on a higher side. The vault is like 758 and 868. little bit on the higher side. The ideal vault is somewhat close to 250 to 800 is the ideal vault. So this is the presbyopic IPCL, as I told you. It is used only in the presbyopic patient. The presbyopic, obviously, we don't have much of a things to take care of the presbyopia if the patient cannot undergo a corneal based management of the presbyopia. This really helps us. There is no other lens as of now available to take care of the presbyopia using a phakic intraocular lens except the IPCL. So these are the different variants that are available in the presbyopic IPCL. It is fully diffractive, and the disadvantages will be similar to any multifocal IOL. This is how it looks post-operative, the presbyopic IPCL. The complication of any phakic intraocular lenses is predominantly the cataract. If it's close to the crystalline lens, it's the cataract. If it's away from it, a large vault perhaps can cause a secondary glaucoma. It can be pigment dispersion, narrow angle, pupillary block, and with any other refractive surgery, we can have undercorrections and overcorrections as well. So the key of success is proper patient selection, accurate measurements, proper counseling, and we need trained staff for all this. Thank you for patiently listening. We'll come back with more and more topics for the postgraduate training education that we are doing here at HV Desai.